Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a medical reality about heart failure that fundamentally shifts how we view the whole recovery process. Specifically, we're looking at that highly misunderstood window right after a patient is discharged. We're breaking down insights from top cardiovascular experts to reveal a pretty startling truth about what actually happens when patients finally get the green light to go home. Honestly, this is absolutely crucial for anyone who has ever dealt with heart issues or knows someone who has.
Really think about this for a second. Is the day you leave the hospital actually the most dangerous day of your life? It sounds completely backwards, doesn't it? When you're finally discharged, your doctors are smiling, your family is so relieved, and you get to sleep in your own bed again. It feels like a massive victory. But, well, the medical data paints a vastly different picture. That feeling of relief, it can actually create a dangerous false sense of security that blinds us to the real medical reality unfolding inside the body. So let's strip away all those assumptions and look at the hard facts.
Okay, let's dive into this first part. Discharge is not the goal. Breaking the cured illusion.
This brings us straight to the very first major misconception that patients and frankly their families have about heart failure. We naturally just equate being allowed to leave the hospital with having totally conquered the disease. But in the world of cardiovascular health, that equation is just fundamentally flawed. You know, when a heart failure patient is first admitted, they're usually in immense distress. They might be literally gasping for air after taking just 2 steps. Their legs might be painfully swollen with fluid, and just lying down makes the breathlessness even worse. But then the hospital interventions kick in. Doctors give you these powerful diuretics to drain the excess water, they give you oxygen, they finally tune your meds, and very quickly, you feel profoundly better. You look in the mirror, the swelling is completely gone, you're breathing easy, and you think, wow, I'm cured. It's a completely understandable, incredibly human reaction to feeling such massive physical relief.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the massive difference it shows between two very distinct medical states. On one hand, you have symptom relief. Sure, the water is drained, breathing is easy, and a totally collapsed physical balance has been temporarily propped back up, but then you have an actual cure. A true cure would mean your weakened heart is fully healed and functioning normally again. And the reality is, that has not happened. The symptoms have been cleared, absolutely, but the underlying engine, your heart, is still damaged. Leaving the hospital really just means you've recovered enough to survive outside the intensive care unit. It does not mean the heart is fixed. The balance is restored, sure, but it is incredibly, incredibly fragile.
Moving on to part 2, the life-shortening truth of readmission, the red light from your heart.
Because that balance we just talked about is so fragile, we really have to face a harsh reality here. A hospitalization for heart failure isn't just some temporary dip in your health. It's a blaring red light from your body. It means the heart's pumping function got so weak that it couldn't sustain the rest of your organs, causing your whole systemic balance to just scream for help. And because that underlying weakness is still there after you go home, the data gets pretty sobering. Research shows that a staggering 20 to 25% of heart failure patients are readmitted to the hospital within just 30 days of going home. But get this, at the 6-month mark, 50% of patients end up right back in a hospital bed. Literally, half of all patients. This isn't just about the annoyance of going back to the hospital. It signals something deeply terrifying about how the disease itself is progressing. Doctors actually describe this recurring cycle using a pretty grim metaphor, a downward staircase. Every single time a patient is readmitted for heart failure, they don't just bounce back up to where they were before the crisis. Each hospitalization physically chips away at their overall health. Step 1, prolonged bed rest and poor circulation lead to rapid muscle loss and kidney decline. Step 2, this puts immense strain on the rest of the body, pushing you towards systemic organ failure. And step 3, the ultimate unavoidable consequence is a permanently shortened lifespan. Every single time you end up back in the hospital, it forces you down another step on that staircase. You just never climb back up to your previous baseline.
So you might be wondering, why do so many patients fall back down the stairs the very moment they get home? Well, it really comes down to the stark contrast in environments. The hospital is this tightly protected bubble, right? Your weight is strictly monitored, salt is carefully controlled, and nurses are literally standing there making sure you take your meds on time. But home? The home environment is defined by dangerous freedom. It's so incredibly easy to slip up. Eating a salty meal, forgetting one pill, or just brushing off a tiny bit of leg swelling is normal. Those tiny, seemingly harmless little deviations at home accumulate so fast, throwing that fragile balance right back into absolute chaos and leading you straight back to a dangerous readmission.
All right, let's look at part 3, why resting shortens your life, the paradox of heart failure.
If home is such a high-risk zone, how in the world are patients supposed to act when they get there? The intuitive guess is that if you have a weak, failing heart, you should just stay in bed and protect it. Like if your car's engine is sputtering, you definitely shouldn't push the pedal to the metal, right? Almost everyone naturally assumes that having a bad heart means you should become as absolutely sedentary as possible. But here's the kicker. In the context of heart failure recovery, this intuitive guess is completely, dangerously wrong.
So the crucial point is this. Resting too much actually destroys your life expectancy. When you just stay in bed trying to protect your heart, your leg muscles and physical stamina deteriorate at an alarming rate, especially in older patients. And think about what happens when your muscles shrink. Suddenly, even basic everyday movements, like just walking to the bathroom, require massive amounts of effort. That extra effort forces your already weakened heart to pump even harder just to accomplish daily tasks. Over-resting literally creates a fatal downward spiral where your body gets so weak that your heart ultimately fails under the strain of simply trying to keep you alive.
Let's move to and see how this builds right into part 4. 5 practices to protect life and rebuild your future. Now that we really understand the risks, that fragile balance, the scary dangers of readmission, and the crazy paradox of resting, let's look at the actionable solutions. There is a very clear roadmap to staying out of the hospital and actually reclaiming your lifespan. Cardiovascular experts insist on these 5 ironclad rules for surviving and thriving at home. 1. Never, ever stop your medications on your own, even if you feel amazing. 2. Weigh yourself every single day. A sudden spike in weight means fluid is silently building up. 3. Strictly control your salt intake because salt acts like a magnet for that dangerous fluid. 4. Never ignore early warning signs like subtle swelling or even a slight shortness of breath. Catching it early prevents a total collapse. And 5, which is honestly the most important long-term strategy, start cardiac rehabilitation immediately.
And this brilliantly illustrates what cardiac rehab is really all about, because that 5th rule is so frequently misunderstood. People always picture, a sad treadmill in a dimly lit hospital basement. But no way, it is so much more than just supervised exercise. It's a highly comprehensive, structured medical treatment designed to rebuild your physical strength safely, so your muscles actually support your heart instead of draining it. Plus, it completely retrains your daily habits, your diet, your meds, tracking your symptoms. It is quite literally the ultimate medical strategy to build a fortress around your health and actively prevent you from ending up back in the hospital.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. The biggest illusion is that simply walking out of those hospital doors means the war is won. But the reality? Discharge isn't the end at all. It is merely the beginning of a highly strategic battle to maintain your balance. But you have the knowledge now. You know the risks of that downward staircase, the hidden dangers of over-resting, and the incredible power of strict daily habits in rehab. So the question is, how will you protect your future from here? Thank you so much for bringing your focus and your curiosity today. Keep learning, keep asking those great questions, and please use this knowledge to empower yourself and the people you love. See you next time.